Welcome back to Carnage Unleashed. I got my lovely co-host with me, Kev Nevick, Clayton Scalina, and guess what? We're back to filming some shows. This past weekend we went over Ruthless Made Promotions Round 5. What do you guys think of that card?
Chopped full of talent, man. Anytime that you have a show with 16 fights on it, you're bound to have a couple firefights in there, a couple more technical showdowns, and a couple just wild brawls. So this card really had it all. It was, I think, numbers wise, probably the biggest show we've ever worked if we're talking number of bouts, right?
Yeah.
16. Yeah, I would
Yeah.
agree. It was massive, right? 16 cards or 16 fights on the card, as Wade said. And as Clayton said, you got a little bit of everything. And one of the things, I know we're going to talk about everything. We're going to dive into all of it. Let us know, by the way, in the comments, if you have any questions about the fights, or let us know what your thoughts are. We'd love to hear from you, and put your comment up on the screen. But one of the big surprises for me was how good some of these youth fighters were. I can't wait to talk about some of those. That was impressive, man. Well put together show all around. But Wade, you got to see everything as the man in the chair, as they say. So you got to see the show from all angles. How are you feeling about it?
I thought it was very entertaining. Yeah, like you said, these youth, they had a lot of skill. They're pretty technical. I don't know how long every single one of them has been doing it, but for their ages, like someone, I think the youngest one was like 8, 9 years old, and those were the two girls. But yeah, these kids are very technical for their ages, and I'm excited to see their talent grow and to be able to record more of their shows and their fights. And it was really nice. I enjoyed the show.
I would 100% agree with that. You know, one of the main reasons we exist is to give like amateur younger fighters a platform, right?
Yep.
That's part of the reason why we're here. So watching some of the younger talent develop, and some of them put on some really good fights. They were so much fun to watch, and we'll dive into that. But another one of my favorite parts is we saw kind of another Carnage Media rivalry come to a close. We'll dive into that in our championship segment when we talk about Ricky Blue Stanley versus Alec Gasegi. But other than that, I'm ready to just dive right in.
Yeah. Some exciting thing that we did this time is we have such a large card. We streamed 4 of the fights free, the first 4 fights on our social media pages. So it's a perk. If you guys aren't yet, follow the pages, Carnage Media PPV. And hopefully in the future we have these big cards like this. We can provide you a little taste of what we do. And if you enjoy it, join in on the pay-per-view events.
Oh yeah, it was a great time getting that first 4 in. Quite an experience, you know. It feels like we're adding firsts very often. You know, we don't take a lot of time to smell the roses here at Carnage Media. We're like, oh, okay, we got that. What's the next thing that we're gonna do? What are we gonna add? So it's incredible that we had those 4 fights and got to display some very talented youth fighters. So I assume we should break down the card in the same way, right, Wade? So we're going to focus on that, on the preliminary bouts. Easy for me to say. Back to you, Wade.
Yes. So the first fight, it was Atlas Jackson versus Charlie Brackney. 2 young fighters, and like we said, they show a lot of good technique for being young. Atlas Jackson definitely, in my eyes, was controlling the ring a little bit more, had a little bit better footwork, seemed a little bit more polished of a fighter. But Charlie Brackney wasn't backing down. He was throwing his punches right back and trying to gain control. That was a really exciting fight. What do you guys think?
I would completely agree with that. You could definitely tell that, I believe Charlie was making his debut in that fight. You could definitely tell he didn't really have some of the in-ring experience that Atlas Jackson did, but Atlas looked great. He controlled the ring the entire time and won a relatively straightforward decision.
Yeah, I agree. It was great. It was the second time I got to see young Atlas Jackson fight, and just a name I'm gonna be keeping my eye on, that's all I'll say. Very, very skilled in the ring, had some supporters watching us live, so you can tell not he and his family are invested in this, and, I think he's got a bright future. I look forward to calling more of his fights, and yeah, Charlie, especially considering the opponent, I think Charlie did a great job, and, that's gonna be a bit of a theme tonight because, again, as I mentioned in the lead, all of these youth fighters were very well trained. A lot of them, I mean, wait till we get to the 8-year-olds, man. I'll quote Amin directly from the pay-per-view when we get to that point. But yeah, it was and it's a bit of a task, right? To start a pay-per-view, even though it's the preliminary, you're starting this event off. You're already young into your career, and then you have so there's probably additional nerves. So props to both those young fighters. They did a great
Yeah.
job. But no, Atlas is I think more seasoned. I think he's just had more time, but definitely a very skilled fighter. Someone to keep an eye on.
Yeah. To add to that too, like to start off the show, Ruthless Made Promotions really does a really great job of making it feel like a big event. Like they got the lights and the monitors and they're coming out through like a stage. They really are giving that experience to these young fighters before they can grow up and get into like the professional realm. So that's a cool aspect that promotion provides for these kids.
Kind of reminds me of the old Pride days, right?
Yeah.
It's a show. You know what I
Yep.
mean? That's one thing that I wish if the UFC could do anything differently. That's one of the few things that I would change is make the entrance like more of a show. Like
Hmm.
obviously we don't have like pyrotechnics and stuff like Pride Day, but
Yeah.
definitely like making the entrance fun, letting fighters kind of personalize how they do it. Awesome. It's a great that's one of my Ruthless Made is a great promotion to work for sure. If any
Yep.
of you amateur fighters out there get a chance to get on one of their cards, do it. 100%.
Highly agree. Yeah, jumping into the second fight is James Garth versus Mason Page. Um, this one was pretty good. I think Garth was definitely he was he was good. He was having a good footwork, and I think that Mason Page was putting the pressure on a little bit more. Um, but yeah, I thought it was a good fight. What do you guys think?
Kev, I'm going to go ahead and defer to you. I'm going to see if
Yeah,
I can remember this one by what you say.
yeah, absolutely. James Garth, Mason Page. It was I mean, a difficult task after the first one. I thought this fight was maybe a little more even. It was a closely contested bout, but again, there wasn't much of a decline. I'll be honest, when we have that many youth fights in a row, you're not concerned necessarily, but you're kind of wondering, what skill level are we going to see? And the thing about it is with those early fighters is they all had great footwork, they had good technique. So this one was more of an even match in my opinion, but I thought it was a great fight. Clayton, what were your thoughts? Did any of that help?
I think so. Did Mason walk away with the victory there?
My notes my notes have James, but
Okay.
that's just me writing it down manually as we go. I wouldn't count that as
Hey, fair enough.
gospel.
Well, I don't want to say anything that was not that I can't remember, but I will say all four of the prelim fights definitely lived up to the hype. It's when you're building any sort of a pay-per-view, people think, oh, you got to like load up the actual like pay part of the card, right? But if you don't stack up the undercard, like people aren't going to buy the pay-per-view. Like if somebody's just chilling on their couch on a Saturday and just is bored by the prelims, like how do you expect somebody to shell over $50 to watch the five main fights, right? So
Right.
overall, this fight lived up to the hype. I remember all four of our prelim fights were awesome.
Yes, for sure. Um, Yeah, moving into Landon Paul versus Isaac Alsop. Is that how you say it? Pronounce it? Alsop? Yeah. This one I don't quite remember. This one I was working behind the scenes, but I had a lot of people coming up to me. It was like, "How do we get the stuff?" And I remember in this fight, there was like three people coming up to me in the middle as I'm trying to work and do this. So, do you guys help me out here?
Shout out to Only Mistakes in the chat. Let's see. So, because it's interesting. This was my first time in the pre-show because we went through StreamYard and we were streaming to multiple locations. I actually wasn't at the desk for the first couple of fights. I think this was right around the time that I got in there for Landon, Paul, and Isaac. So, you know what? I think we should do because this is free footage. I think we should go back at some point as we can watch these fights together with the audience. I think that'd be a pretty
I think
cool
that'd be
thing to
awesome.
do.
Yeah, be really good. Um, yeah, and Ruthless Made does not make it easy with 16 fights trying to remember that.
That's what's kind of nicer about having like Dylan's promotion. He's had he's had as few as 5 and he's had up to like 11 or 12, and that's relatively easy. But with 16, man, they're
Yeah,
just all blending together at this point.
they
It's
are.
exam week for me too. My brain's about half gone. So
Yeah, no worries. I do remember kicking it off with Manny versus Brooks on the pay per view. I remember
Yes.
that one because that one was a little controversial. What do you guys think? For
I
me,
would agree. Man, Taichon was coming forward and was the aggressor, and to me, it just looked like he landed more. You know what I mean? I was a little surprised when they gave it to Manny, but I mean, if the judges thought that he was landing more scoring blows, there's not really much we can say, right?
yeah,
Overall, controversial, but oh well.
I
Like
did.
Kev says, they don't pay us to judge, right?
Yep,
Yeah,
yep.
exactly. Go ahead, Wade.
I was gonna say, yeah, I remember like Brooks was just putting the pressure on. I felt like, and was really backing down Manny, and he, I just felt like controlled more and controlled better. Um, but I guess the judges saw that he was landing a lot more punches. So in my eyes, I thought Brooke had it, but not to take away from Manny because he was firing back as well. So
Yeah, and Manny did a great job defensively, which because that was sort of my take on things as they unfolded was Brooks was the aggressor, Manny was playing great defense, but it felt to me that Brooks had actually landed a bit more. I can't remember. I want to say Manny got a little bit of color in this one. That was a theme during this one. A lot of bloody noses. Everybody
yes,
was punching hard on Saturday night. But what came to mind when we heard this one was some advice that I had heard. It was either from Amin or it was from Christian Getzi during our West Virginia trip, because there was a similar outcome. I believe it was with an RJ Flores fight where there are a lot of people in the audience, a lot of people on the stream that felt like, well, he was the aggressor, he landed more punches, and our color commentator pointed out that in amateur you have a box that you have to hit, and if you there is a chance that you could be scoring a lot of hooks in your mind, that you're landing a lot of hooks that are not getting you any points with the judges because you're not hitting into that box. So I wonder if that takes part of it as well. Sometimes in the amateur game, the eye test doesn't always hold true to the scoring. It might look like somebody is doing more or being more active or being the aggressor, but if in reality Manny's blocking all of those shots that are in the box and he's taking any damage he's taking is out of the scoring zone, then it becomes understandable. So yeah, there were a couple as we go through that I will say I kind of was surprised by. For the most part, a lot of these were neck and neck, and I wouldn't have wanted to have to judge them at all. But there were a couple. Usually, I like to lean on our pro. So if Amin is speaking in a way that it sounds like, oh, hey, fighter A really has this one. Fighter B is going to need to do something big in this round. Or and at one point in the fight in this card, he said, fighter B is going to need to get a knockout to win. And then lo and behold, fighter B was named the winner in a split decision. And so, there were a couple of those that we'll get to. This one, I think, was one that what the crowd was probably split on. I'll just put it that way. But it was a
Yeah,
great fight nonetheless. Nothing to
I
take away
agree.
from anybody.
it
Great way
was.
to start off the pay-per-view portion of our card. That's the kind of
Yeah,
stuff you need, a good close fight. And you mentioned a bloody nose. I actually think, if my memory serves correctly, Landon Paul versus Isaac Alsup was the first stoppage of the night. I want to
I
say. I want to
think
say
you're
that
correct.
I think Landon got the stop after one, right? Whoever won that fight got the stop after the first round.
Yeah, that's correct. Yep. It was a first round stoppage because now, my first fight of the night at the booth was J.W. Adams versus Daniel Holbert, and then we switched gears, dove into the pay per view, which the next one in the pay per view, it was Muhammad Zakari versus Hayden Van Horn. And that was a phenomenal fight. Hayden gets the decision win. He was very flashy, Wade. One of the things I
Yes.
remember, kept his hands down a lot. We were talking to Amin about that at the desk because he was phenomenal. The kid's in shape because his head movement, like he was doing a great job at avoiding punches. But yeah, he just had his head down, was moving a lot, hit with a lot of power. Muhammad was, a little more fundamental, a little more of a there wasn't as much sizzle. It was more steak there. But I
Yeah.
thought these were two really good fighters, and Hayden Schoolboy Jr. ended up walking away with the victory. Wade, I'll pass it to you first. What were your thoughts on that one?
Yeah, you said it perfectly. Yeah. Van Horn, he was very flashy but technical. And Zakari definitely was just more like your traditional technical, good boxing stance and firing off really well. But I think the flashiness and Van Horn's pressure kind of got to Zakari over time, and you really started to see him fighting off his back foot. Um, and so I think that's where Van Horn really took control in that fight. So kudos to him for that win.
I would 100% agree. Interesting fact about Schoolboy Jr. He was asked by our ring announcer Eddie after his fight, like, what's with the nickname? Schoolboy Jr. is a pretty original, right? We've seen a lot of interesting ones in our time, but that's definitely a first. And he said, well, my dad was a 2-time middleweight champion of the world. So I looked him up, and Darren Van Horn of Cincinnati, Ohio, light middleweight and super middleweight, 54-3 with
Oh,
Wow.
he held the IBF super middleweight title in 91 and 92 and the IBF junior middleweight title in 1989. So some boxing lineage there for sure.
yeah, definitely. He definitely got a leg up on his competition having that in his corner, right?
Oh, 100%. When you have a guy who has almost 60 pro fights with 3 losses, like he figured it out. He's doing
He did.
something
Yeah.
right. So
Absolutely. Going into the next one now. Cade Farley versus Jack Chappie.
what a fight, man.
Yes.
That one was nothing but fireworks the whole time.
Chappie is a brawler. He reminds me of like RJ Flores. Just going in there, he's just gonna be in your face and just throw, and then you're either gonna crumble under the pressure or you're gonna sit in that fire.
I would 100% agree. That was one of my favorite fights of the night, strictly because of action. Chappie would not stop coming forward. It didn't matter how many shots he was eating. He was walking him down the entire time. Very entertaining fight. What are your thoughts, Kev?
Yeah, I would agree. This one I thought was really close throughout. And I do think the difference maker was Jack at the very end of the fight. You know, I'll call it reckless abandon. He is all the fighters, I believe you can hear it in the corner. There's a certain point you hear it's go time, or as Amin called it, learned a new phrase, dog time, right? Last 30 seconds. That's what he says they do in his gym. It's not the final 10, it's the final 30. But Jack really came with that volume later on in the round, and we talk about that a lot at the commentary table. Sometimes when it's a close fight, it's about lasting moments. It's about what leaves the big impression. And sometimes if it's a coin flip, if you win the last 10 seconds of that fight, that might have just won you that fight. So and I personally, my opinion on that was that was the case for Jack in a very close fight, that it was his persistence and the fact that he kept throwing all the way to the very end that definitely helped him score higher with the judges. But it was another good one. We've had the privilege of watching him at least kickbox before, if memory serves. I can't remember if we've seen him box before that, but I thought it was a good showing by both fighters. Wade, back to you. What are we on to the next one?
Yeah, so this is the eighth fight of the night, and Denasia Adams versus Sierra Lyric. That was entertaining. Came out slugging, and I think if I remember correctly, Sierra in the first dropped Adams in the corner, and I think she might have thought it was some MMA going on because she was like, "Ugh." I was like, "Ooh," but she stopped.
I thought that was it, man. I sort of wind up when Denasia was down on the ground. And I was like, oh man, this is just like the scene out of Creed 2 when he's down on one knee and just boom.
Yeah.
I was waiting for it, but she held off. She did the right thing, but she did end up getting a stop in the second round. Very,
Yeah.
very impressive performance by Sierra. And I believe that was her debut fight too. So shout out to
Yeah.
her. She did an excellent job.
Yeah, I believe you're right. And she came out there and she just wanted to put on a show, and she sure did.
Well, and that Fightopia crowd always runs deep, so they have
They
a home
do.
court advantage basically wherever they go. So I know that's a big factor. But yeah, it was. I talked about this on the pay-per-view. It was a big testament to the official. I think the referee did a great job of letting these young fighters learn the ropes and explaining things to them. He did at the beginning of that first round. He had kind of a lengthy break before it started to kind of talk about, because we had that incident where Denasia was down. So we've seen in other promotions, we've seen fights get called for something as simple as a young fighter turns his back for about one whole second, and then that's TKO or whatever. Fight's over, and it's like, oh, come on, man. It's probably this youngster's fourth fight or something. Give him a warning, right? Let them make that mistake once. And the ref did a great job, I thought, not only in this fight, in other fights, of being lenient, but also providing that instruction. Even after fights, he would be pulling fighters aside, saying, "Hey, this is something you were doing. You're going to have to work on that." So I thought this was a great fight. Both these ladies hit incredibly hard. I want to see them fight again, to be honest. I would love to see a rematch of this one, especially, I think it would be another good fight, and I'd like to see it without those first round hiccups. I'd like to see them just have another shot to go at. I think they would be a very entertaining fight for either Ruthless Made 6 or maybe a Mindless Mania in the future. Who knows? Luckily, that's another job no one's paying me to do, is promote, because I see the work Diamond puts in, and to make these cards as great as she does, and to our other promoters as well. And listen, I honestly might do it because I'm kind of tired of the little horseshoe of hair that does grow on the back of my head. So maybe the stress of being a fight promoter would help just rectify. I'm tired of shaving my head twice a
Yeah.
week.
No more
Hey, you got to commit.
wasting
You got
money.
to commit.
Yeah. No more wasting money on razors anymore. Just
Yeah, we need to go full egg here.
Yes, that's awesome. Going into our next one is Colton Earl versus Alex Ferguson, and I thought it was a pretty close match. Very technical. I think, if I remember correctly, I think Earl got one of them bloody noses.
Yes.
Yes.
That is correct. He one of my most memorable parts outside of the fight, because I will say I think Ferguson had great footwork, nice head movement as well. Came in with lots of combos, but his nickname is Baconator, and which was very interesting because we also had on this card Juwan Bacon. So I was worried we might have two Baconators on the card. Who would be the thoughts? And Eddie in the post-fight interview asked him, he said, I love a good Baconator. Why is that your nickname? He said, for the same reason you like it. It's just like, I love that. I think that's, a lot of times I have been surprised at how often fighters like to talk about their post-fight meal. I think at the end of one of the other fights, it might have been I honestly I can't remember which one it was, but someone else said, I just want to go eat some B-dubs after they won their fight. So I think that's a new niche we're going to start seeing, fighters nicknaming themselves after their favorite meal. And I'm here all for it. But no, I thought Ferguson looked good. Wade, what about you?
I thought he looked real good. He real technical, had some good footwork. It was a close match, but I thought he pulled it off. He controlled better and for longer. I think the only next thing is to get him sponsorship of Wendy's.
Oh,
For sure.
Absolutely. Going on to the next one. Nasir versus Colton. Not even gonna pronounce the other names. I can't do it. What do you guys think of this card?
I believe Colton ended up walking away with a decision in this one, which I think was correct. He was just more aggressive. I would have liked to see more coming forward out of out of Hytham. But overall, another good fight. Not the closest fight that we had tonight, but overall, both guys did a good job. I was impressed.
yeah, Colton's so incredibly long, man. Like, it's got to be so difficult because Hatham's not a small guy. In fact, we
Mm-mm.
chuckled when the fighters fill out their own information card. A lot of them don't know their reach. Yeah, I don't blame 'em. I couldn't tell you mine, right? Sometimes the promoter doesn't have a tape measure, and we're not getting the reach. So some guys, they just Hatham wrote long for his reach, and he paled in comparison to Colton. I mean, there's something about his fighting stance too, because he kind of has his elbows out wide and kind of swings. He's got this little sway to it, and so it almost feels like some kind of wild animal in nature. The ones that like puff themselves up to be bigger to intimidate other animals out in the wild. Where it's just like, holy I wouldn't I just think about him in MMA, where he could use those elbows and stuff, and that long reach. Like, oh my god, the dude's got to be a monster. But I say all that to say I do think Hatham's a skilled fighter, and this was a situation you guys already touched on a little bit. Colton was more aggressive. This was a fight, to paraphrase Amin, I believe there were opportunities where Hatham was posting and just not necessarily following up with the punch. And so, as it often will be the case in a combat sport, Ty will go to the aggressor, right? If it's an even fight, it's going to be the person who controls the pace, who controls the center of the ring, and who has the most offense. So great fight by Colton. That's the second time I've gotten to see him fight, and I look forward to see him fighting again. Same with Hatham. I look forward to seeing Hatham bounce back. I don't know who his next fight will be against, but I will not be surprised if his hand is raised next time. But again, congratulations to Colton.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
like you said, yeah, he's so long, and I think that's where Hatham had trouble. Is he would jab in, and then they get in a clinch, and I think what he needed to do is just as they exit, he needed to throw some and make Colton pay for that, and then work his way back in and just kind of have that kind of a game plan going because Colton's so long. It's so hard to fight a very long opponent. I am short, so whenever I spar with long people, I'm just trying to adapt like the Mike Tyson, just hopping in there, pop, 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 and get out. But shout out to Hatham as well, though, because I believe he commented on one of our YouTube videos. I think it was one of his past fights that we had done, and he was like, "Yeah, you guys just wait, and I'm gonna bring some action this weekend for this card." And so shout out him for following the page and commenting. It's much appreciated.
And living up to it. It was a good fight.
Yep. So what's the next one? Oh, Lauren Flynn.
and Destiny.
Yeah, that was a pretty good one.
Speaking of good fights, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Clayton, what did you think?
Lauren looked great, man. She was very active the entire time. Very technical. That's one thing I've noticed about Lauren Flynn. And she just had Destiny's number that night. You know, I think that there's absolutely a world where if they rematch, Destiny gets the better of her. Two very skilled. We have 3 ladies around the same weight that can fight each other. We have Destiny, we have Lauren, and then we have Sydney Leith over at Demolition. Yep. And Lauren actually cut a promo after her fight. The last thing that she said was, "Sydney, I want another shot at that belt." So I hope that fight happens. Like I said, just 2 very skilled fighters, and Lauren happened to come out on top tonight. Very technical performance, and she should be proud. She took a lot away from that, I think.
Yeah, she was pretty technical and had a lot of for as little as they are, they got some power behind their shots. So
yeah, 100%. They this was a good fight. I thought this one really could have gone either way. As I'm sitting there watching it unfold, I had a hard time picking a winner. They both did a great job. Destiny was getting plenty of jabs through. Lauren was technically sound defensively as well as on offense, but Destiny still hit her plenty of times and was able to break through that. Steady with the combos, with the offense coming. As Clayton said, I would love to see those 2 run it back as well. I mean, that's one of the perks, I guess, selfishly for us viewers, that there's not a lot of competition that we're currently aware of in that weight class, but we have a nice little rivalry kind of in my personal opinion. Like, I've got now 2 rematches that I want to see. I want to see Lauren and Sydney. Heck, I'd see Sydney and Destiny fight again too. That's the second most viewed fight on our YouTube channel right now. 15,000 people have enjoyed that fight, so it's we're not the only ones. But yeah, so we're kind of blessed right now, in my opinion, in our little corner of the combat sports world. We have something really great brewing with those 3. And like you said, guys, I hope we get to see, I guess, give me Sydney and Lauren first, since, that one goes back a little further. But yeah, let's get Lauren and Destiny back together in the ring sometime in 2024 then.
Oh yeah. I think that's going to be awesome too. Cause like, there's, like you said, not a lot of girls in that weight around here. So it's going to be like a little trio battle of who's that top dog around here. So
I think people are going to come in from other regions thinking like, oh, this is just a small weight class, not realizing that, it's just going to be 3 elites in there with this. Good luck. Been
iron sharpening iron.
Yeah. Like, oh, Ohio, that'll be easy. There's like 3 people in the rankings. Oh, shit.
Yeah. Oh, and then I just want to say that Paige is tough as heck, because I thought she had like a torn meniscus or something like not that long ago. I saw she had a knee brace on, so she must be just getting over that. And hey, that's tough to get in there after a knee injury and be confident on that knee. So kudos to her to getting in the ring.
Absolutely.
But Kev, I'm gonna let you introduce this next one.
So for this next fight, the people's main event, I would argue, we had Callie Fairchild versus Piper Ramirez. I believe Callie was 8 and Piper was 9.
Yeah, the youngest on the card.
Guys, the gloves went up to their elbows. Like, just
talk about putting on a show too. Their walkouts, they were getting it. They're like, yeah, look at me, and like flexing and going down there, putting on a show.
Yeah, both of them were showmen, which we were talking about live. Like, it's one thing to train on how to fight. A lot of people, it takes a long time to get comfortable being confident in front of a crowd. And these two youngins had all of it, because not only did they have the show, but they could both go. Now, I'm used to the world of basketball, guys, where when the 8 and 9-year-olds play, there's no such thing as a travel or a double dribble. I mean, it's neutral chaos, and it's not very good, but so I didn't know what to expect. I was like, oh, okay, 8 and 9, like this will be cute, like it's their first fight. What, it'll be a nice little moment. No, to quote Amin L. So any of the fighters on the card, if you have a problem, talk to the bare knuckle boxer about it, not me. He said that those two, both of them, had better footwork than some of the older people that he had seen on that card, or like that. And that's not meant as a slight, because they were just really that damn good despite being that young. It was crazy. We're watching Callie pop in and pop out, so you guys know this, a little behind the scenes. Like, I'm a noob to all of this stuff, so I've started to do some very light boxing workouts as part of my routine. And so I'm learning stuff. Like, I'm seeing stuff that I have been watching in some intro to boxing videos or whatever, and I'm just like, oh, holy shit, like the way she's able to pop in, pop out, like, wow. It was almost like they're highly advanced for being that age. I was just completely blown away by these two.
I was too. Like, you mentioned like them popping in and popping out, like, but it's like in a good boxing stance. They're coming in, coming out with the jabs. Man, it was the technique just had me blown away.
Yeah,
And
the
I love,
difference in strides, like,
yeah,
yeah, it was crazy. Like, that's, yep. Man.
it was awesome. And I loved Callie's nickname. She's the Killer Callie. I actually, behind the scenes, I was like, there was the information that we were given when I was setting up the names and everything for the overlays for the show. That a lot of people didn't put in their nicknames. I'm like, man, you gotta have a nickname. And got to like these 8 and 9-year-olds, and they got these cool nicknames. I'm like, yes. And then they came out and put on a show too. Like, they got something going for them. They stick to it and progress as fast as they already have been. They could be some real contenders in the pros if they decide they want to go there.
I will say, Callie cut the best promo of the day after her fight. That was awesome, dude. She jumped into the ropes, and it might have been her dad was like holding his phone right there, and she was like, "Whoever wants some can come get it." And she was like all angry, like yelling at the phone. Oh, it was awesome. I completely lost it on the broadcast after watching that. It was great.
So did one of the judges. Yeah, that was next to us. We were all losing it. I couldn't. There was probably dead air on the live broadcast. Sorry about that, Wade. We were all just kind of like, I was pulling a Joe Rogan when someone gets knocked out. I was like, oh. I love a good promo.
That probably had to been one of my fight of the night, just because it was just mind blowing for me. I wasn't expecting them to be that advanced and to have that much showmanship.
I think I might agree with that. Yeah, just because it just blew expectations out of the water. Man, it's great job. Definitely check that out. I can't wait for that one to be available to the public, because they're gonna get a kick out of that one.
Yeah, they're gonna see it and be like, "Yep, I know what they're talking about now." So, yeah, moving on to Darren Shaw versus Nate Wheeler Jr. How was what do you guys think of that one? I thought Wheeler looked pretty good, and Shaw had the edge and the power.
Absolutely. De'Ron Shaw is just, Amin has seen him box before. He trains out of Toledo, and De'Ron trains at a different gym in Toledo. He's only 13, but this kid's a truck, man. Like, he keeps moving forward no matter what. I believe we watched him get a first round knockout over at Venue 18 at one point. I remember that. He's he's got a lot of power for as young as he is, and he looked great, man. He was the aggressor for most of the fight. But Nate definitely has some positives to take away too.
Mm-hmm.
He showed a lot of toughness through that adversity. Overall, I thought that both guys did a great job, but I think Diron won that one pretty clearly.
Yeah, I would think so.
Yeah, I tend to agree, and we got to see Deron fight once before, and so coming into this, I kind of knew what to expect, and my takeaway from it was this: I just think Shaw has more experience. Now, I mean, he definitely hit harder from the well, I shouldn't say definitely. I wasn't taking those punches, but it by all appearances looked like he was hitting harder. But on top of it, it just felt like he was the more seasoned fighter, and I think that Nate Wheeler Jr. definitely has a bright future and put on a good fight because he was in there, like Clayton said. Even though Darren's 13, he's got a lot of experience and he's already fought in situations like this before and had success. So that's a lot. That's a big edge at that
Yeah.
age. You know, if it's one young kid's making his debut, the other one's fought a handful of times and has some victories. Like that's a huge difference. So yeah, I look forward to more Darren Shaw fights and want to see Wheeler Jr. again
Mm-hmm.
as well. But yeah,
Was he the was Shaw the one that fought on Golden Gloves before? I remember there's somebody that fought on Golden Gloves. I can't remember which one though.
I'm not sure, to be honest. I don't want to get it wrong. I
Yeah, I know.
want to say I want to say there were multiple kids wearing Toledo Golden Glove shirts. I believe Darren was one of them because it was a white shirt with red trimmings, and then because I was trying to figure out, I thought at first it was just a team, like I just
Yeah.
thought, like Phytopia or something. But I'm pretty sure I'm pretty sure he was one of a few Golden Gloves kids that were there, but don't quote me on that.
Yeah, this next fight was for a belt, if I remember correctly.
Those brand new belts, man.
Yeah.
Woo.
They were fresh off the press, weren't they?
Those would
Yeah,
work
they
in the
were, man.
WWE, man.
They were holding them, and it was like they were holding a 2x4. It was just completely straight the whole time.
Oh yeah.
But I will say this one, Noah Allen versus Cameron Rich. I definitely think that Cameron ended up walking away with the victory, and this is not to take away from him, but I definitely think that Noah won that fight. 100%. I think he landed cleaner shots. I think he did a better job at controlling the center of the ring. Cameron definitely had some good moments, though. We had him on the ropes a couple times. He didn't quite finish his posts, though, and that was something that Amin and I were discussing on the broadcasts, but the judges saw it differently. This was one of our two controversial fights of the night. That's for sure.
Yeah. I think I had the same opinion there. I think I would agree.
Yeah, this one was, I mean, same here. This one, like I said, I tend to lean on the experts. That's why we have them there. And when we're blessed to work with a lot of talented, skilled, and knowledgeable fighters, I learn a lot just sitting next to those guys. But so again, when I tend to again listen to the experts, but my personal feel was that Noah had won that fight, and that's what all three of us, I think, at the table were thinking. I think that might have been one of the fights where Amin was like, Cameron's going to have to knock him down, do something big here.
Yeah, yep.
But yeah, no, I'm with that in mind, Noah Allen hopefully definitely keeping his head up, and he's someone with an incredibly bright future. And
Mhm.
again, I feel bad in this moment because I don't want to take anything away from Cam. I don't.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I do want to acknowledge, yeah, that was because we're the last ones to leave, as Wade knows. I don't have to tell him, but you at home, it takes a long time to pull that tape up off the ground and put all the cords back, and especially when I'm putting stuff in the wrong box, and Wade and Zach got to clean up after me. So we get to hear the chatter afterward too. So it was definitely seemed to be a controversial call, and it's our job to discuss it if that's the case, right? So,
Right.
yeah, great
Playing
fight
dev-
still.
playing devil's advocate, I think that if I put my brain in the judge's view, I think it's because Rich was pressuring more and Allen was fighting off his heels, but he wasn't just fighting off his heels. He was doing a lot of cutting angles and uh, getting those counter punches, and I just don't. I like you said earlier. I just think that's not what the judges are scoring and seeing. So I think that's why Rich took that one.
That makes sense. You know what? Talk about call outs, rivalries, that run that one back. I would definitely love to see it.
Yeah, I
I think
would.
that's when I think that motivates both fighters, because obviously Noah's going to be motivated, but Cam will probably be motivated to prove that first call was the right call. He'll
Hmm.
say, hey, if I'll prove it to you again, then how about that? So both good fighters. I look forward to seeing them on the next card.
Oh, for sure. Moving into the co-main event, Bryce Childs versus Juan Bacon.
Chili dog versus sizzling bacon. So you guys
Yep,
can
yep,
tell
yep.
I was pulling a Booker T and placing my DoorDash order when this fight was starting.
Oh yeah, this one I do remember. Bacon, I think he did win a Golden Gloves event. So Childs had
Yeah,
his work cut up for him
Yeah,
in
yep.
this fight.
100% right. And yeah, Bacon has a lot of experience, is what we were told from his coach, and you could see it as well. And I think Bryce's corner, I think they kind of knew that, right? This was sort of like, this is Bryce stepping up to the next level for the
Hmm.
challenge. And to his credit, Bryce hung in there. I thought he had moments in that fight where he looked great. Clayton, what were your thoughts?
Overall, I would agree. I think Jawan definitely stole the show, and that's not taking away from Bryce, because Bryce is a talented as heck kid too, and we'll get to that here in a sec. But Jawan, like, you don't win a statewide Golden Gloves tournament and be named Golden Glover of the Year in Indiana for no reason.
Yeah.
Like, he showed up ready to fight. That kid's going to have a very successful pro career. Keep your eye out for Jawan Sizzling Bacon, but that's, like I said, that's not to take anything away from Bryce Childs. That kid's tough as nails, man. He was getting pops, never got knocked down, very bloody nose, didn't get knocked down.
Mm-mm.
He landed some punches of his own. So
Yeah.
there's a lot to take away for sure for Bryce Childs. And he mentioned in his information that he gave us that he will be turning pro here relatively soon. So hopefully we'll be able to see him on one of these local shows when he's getting started with being a pro. And I'm sure Jawan will be going pro too. So I'd love to see that one in the professional ranks.
That's what I liked about that too, is that Childs was taking on this hard of an opponent before going off into being a pro. Is really get in there with someone that's just as seasoned as him, and arguably more if he won the statewide Golden Gloves. So to go in there, challenge yourself, see what you got, see what you need to work on, and go back. And knowing him, he's gonna go back and try to compete against another high-ranked boxer and challenge himself again. He just from seeing him, he likes to challenge himself, and he's taken this very serious. And I think he's got a really bright future as he steps into becoming a pro.
Yeah,
I
mean,
100% agree with that.
makes sense that he's going pro. The kid is you guys might not get this reference, but he's the Ultimo Dragon of amateur boxing. Dude's got about 8 championship belts right now. So that's a pro wrestling reference, guys. That's a foreshadowing for later.
Oh yeah. So let's kick it off into the main event.
We made it, guys. That shows you how big this card is. We've been talking for almost an hour. We're just now getting to the main event.
I know.
That's why the run of show was so thin. If you guys saw it, it's like, why are there only 3 topics for tonight? Well,
we were a little occupied on Saturday, I think.
Oh yeah. So what'd you guys think?
Well, this one was a rematch. I think point to bring up that this was, and it was in Ruthless made 4, I believe. Ruthless made round
Yes.
4.
Mhm.
Ricky, Blue, Stanley, and Alec Gasagi, and Alec won the first one by decision. And it sounded like there had been maybe a little bit of back and forth between the two of them, or since now and then. Felt like this was sort of a prove it fight for both of them. So I love that. We talked a little bit about rivalries earlier. This one definitely had that feel to it. So I thought it was a good fight. It got off to a bit of a wonky start. My only real regret is that fight. We had 2 early stoppages to get some equipment fixed. It's a bummer when that happens, especially in the main event. But they got back on track. Once the track was clear, once the grounds crew got off the field, it was all action from there. So I did think it was a good main event. Clayton, what were your thoughts on the fight?
Overall, I would agree. Alec definitely landed more shots, I would say, but Ricky was active the whole time and he blitzed him at the end of that third round, man. I think he knew he was probably down 2 when that third round came about. And for about the last minute and a half, he just marched him down, man. Both guys were swinging. I think the judges got it right. Alec ended up walking away with the victory. I believe he's 2-0 now against Ricky Blue Stanley to kind of put an end to another great rivalry that we've had. We talked about this on the broadcast too. Guys like Tristan Canada versus Corey Tyron, like those guys, that was a good one. My personal favorite was Lino versus Mike Russell. When I got into the broadcast that day, those two dudes were already going back and forth, and we like literally hadn't even went live yet. They just didn't like each other.
Yeah.
So that was
I'm over here like, should I just
one.
go live? Like, this is really good. No,
Kevin's
I would never
swinging
do that to you guys. Don't worry. But
I remember like looking at Kev's frame because I don't think Wade was in there yet, so it was just us 4. And Kev's like mouth was open a little bit. He was like, "Damn, they're already going at it. They haven't even started yet."
I
Oh
know.
my God.
I jumped into the background and they're going at it, and I'm like, "Oh, was I late? Did I? Oh man,
Do we
I'm just
start
not going to
already?
say anything right now. They're just going."
Yeah, it was a great one. But yeah, I like that we're building up a little nice collection of rivalries that we will continue to build on. Before we move off of this main event or get Wade's take on it, Cody asks us, is there a video of the main event? Wade, I know the video will be available, but I don't know our schedule by heart. So can you let Cody know what's going on?
Yeah, shout out to Cody. Yeah, we will make it available on our page to keep a lookout. The playback will be, hey, you'll be able to buy that for a discounted rate to watch the whole fight card, and you get to experience all these fights we've been talking about. So keep a lookout. We'll post it on our social media. So give us a like and a follow, and yeah. And if you want to wait a couple months, you can check it out on our YouTube our page. So yeah, so that's where you can find it. And if you can't find it, send us a message and we'll get it to you.
Yeah, for
So
sure. Make sure you hit up Carnage Media social medias if you have any questions or requests like that. Everywhere, it's at Carnage Media PPV. So go ahead and find us there: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. One of us is monitoring the inbox.
yeah. But nice. Yes, let's see you in there.
Let's go. Yeah, I like that. So wait, I don't know if we got your thoughts on the main event before we close the book on Ruthless Made 5. What were your
Yeah.
thoughts?
So this one started off like they were feeling each other and feeling each other out. Like you said, equipment issues. It was his hair. He had so much hair.
Yeah.
I remember I heard him over talking. He was like, "Yeah, I usually get this braided before I go in, but I didn't get a chance to." And he had a little issue with keeping his hair contained. He's got Ricky. But yeah, they started off like a feeling out period, and then I just felt like that rivalry took over, and they were just slinging, leaving it all out there for all 3 rounds. You could tell that they were exhausted by the end of the third round because they're just trying to claim that victory for that rivalry.
Yeah, by the end of the fight, it was leaning. If it was a tug of war, things had gone away from the technical side and more towards the brawl side towards the end of that fight.
Yep.
Absolutely. Both guys should hold their heads high after that one. That was an entertaining fight. I don't know if we'll get the privilege to see him run it back, but we'll see both guys again for sure. And I'm excited the next time we get to see both of them.
Oh, absolutely.
Retweet that statement. Yeah, and I know the real street Jesus was very happy that his dear friend Alec is also now a belt holder. I think he made a post about it. So, looking forward to seeing our kickboxing champ defend his title soon too.
Also, shout out to him. He tagged our page. He's a top fan.
Hey, let's go. That's a two-way street, pal.
Yep. Yeah, love me some Lino, man. He's so exciting to watch. He's a great guy, just all around.
We just got to find him an opponent, man.
Yes.
That's the hardest part.
Any 125ers, come on. Don't be scared.
Please. Any pro 125ers, if you guys want some action, hit us up. We'll get you matched up. Belt fight right away. Hit us up.
It'll be a show. He puts a lot of effort and attention into his entrances. So, it'll be a show, so we highly suggest it. You have a lot of eyes on you if you're willing to take that fight.
Yes.
But I think that's about all we had for Ruthless. Should we touch on UFC Austin real quick?
Yeah, I didn't get to watch the whole show. Obviously, we were working. But I did watch a couple highlights. The one highlight you showed me, who was that?
That was nasty, man. That was Drakkar Klose. Yes. So Joe Selecki had him in an arm bar, and Drakkar just picked him up and slammed the side of his head against the canvas, and he was out immediately. So much fun. It reminded me of a Rampage Jackson knockout. I know one of our other guys over at Carnage Media, Zach Dominique, is a big Rampage guy. This was a very, very similar knockout. I will say I have been seeing people comment like, "Oh, this proves that jiu-jitsu's dead in MMA," and I was like, "Buddy, relax. It's slams happen, man. This is a crazy sport." But that honestly, could we see more people maybe practicing slams? But normally you don't want to slam in an armbar because that could just help them sink in it deeper. So it's a double-edged sword. I think Drakkar probably knew that if he didn't do that, Joe was gonna finish it. So
yeah,
great fight. I'm sure he ended up getting $50,000 after that. Another big fight that we saw in here, Misha Tate, former champ, ended up walking away with a rear naked choke submission. I will say, gentlemen, there are not very many professional athletes named Clayton out there, but there was one who fought on Saturday night over in Austin, Texas, Clay Guida. He ended up losing a unanimous decision, but the guy's 42 years old now. He's had, I think, Saturday was his 62nd pro fight.
Yeah, he's one of my favorites. I love Clay Guida. He's entertaining and a great guy. So I love watching his fights, no matter win or lose or not.
Absolutely. I believe he is the longest tenured UFC, continuously tenured UFC fighter. He's been around since 2006. He was Strikeforce's inaugural lightweight champion. Guys like Andrei Arlovsky, Nick Diaz, they've been around longer, in the UFC, but they left for a little bit. Arlovsky's been a little bit of everywhere. Nick Diaz went over to Strikeforce for a little bit. So shout out to Clay Guida. Unfortunately, he didn't come out on top, but Sean Brady ended up submitting Kelvin Gastelum. That was kind of a shocker.
Yeah.
I gave up on Sean Brady. I'm not going to lie. I thought that once Bilal beat him, he would be done, but Kelvin Gastelum's a tough guy, man. So that's a serious win for Sean Brady. That kept his career alive for sure.
Oh, for sure. Yep. Well, another one. I watched the highlight of Bobby Green KO, and I think the refs let that go a little bit too long.
I think a little bit is an understatement, man. He
Yeah.
could have stopped it after. So Bobby got put down, and realistically, if you go down face down, you can stop it right there. And I doubt that many people will be upset. But he let it go, and then he let it go, and then he let it go,
And he's
then he let it go.
defending like this, face down on the mat, and get a couple of them in there. You let him. Okay, let's see if he's gonna defend himself and fight back. After like the second punch, he's not even moving. He's staying in this fetal position. He's done. Nope. He let it go until he was fully unconscious.
It was like 20 seconds of Jalen Turner. And this is not on Jalen Turner for any of you Twitter morons out there.
Exactly.
He's doing his job. It's his job to get in there and punch until the ref takes him off, right? So that's definitely on the ref. Do better for sure.
Yes.
Kev touches on this all the time for some of our like first time listeners. Fighter safety should be the first thing in any combat sport. Doesn't matter what it is, boxing, MMA, jiu-jitsu, even doesn't matter. Fighter safety needs to come first. So definitely do better. Dana wasn't happy. Obviously, you know how quiet and censored he tends to be when he gets upset. So I doubt that we will be seeing that guy anymore. That's
exactly
sure.
Yeah.
In our main event, though, Arman, I'm not even going to try and pronounce his last name, knocked out Beneil Dariush in a little over a minute. Unfortunately, this is the part of the story where we talk about Beneil's demise. He got knocked out in the first round a little bit ago. I actually have a little bit of a funny story about this one. So I was in Alabama. I didn't have my phone or anything. I was in Alabama when he fought Charles Oliveira, and we're sitting there. It's a Saturday night, and I've been good all day. I'm sitting there. I'm talking to my trainer, and I was like, "Hey, can you do something for me?" And she was like, "What?" And I was like, "Can you look up the results of the UFC from last weekend?" She was like, "Yeah." So she did, and that was the only fight that I wanted to know. And I was kind of shocked that Charles put him out in round one, but I went back and watched it. Charles is just that dynamic, but Arman, man, I was kind of surprised that it only took him a little over a minute, but
I know.
Good for him, but unfortunately, this is probably the beginning of the end for Beneil Dariush.
I feel like it's gonna start being like a Tony Ferguson type of deal.
I hope it doesn't get that.
He's just gonna keep getting knocked out, and man,
he's got Tony Ferguson fights in 2 weeks. And
I know.
If he gets knocked out by Paddy Pimblett, guys, I might have to retire. I'm not gonna lie. I would just cry for multiple days. I'm sure.
I'm hoping Ferguson just dogs him, because I'm not a big fan of Paddy Pimblett because I don't think he's that good.
I think that the UFC tried to build him up a little too early. Like they build him as, this next up and comer from England, which is important. England's a big market for MMA, so it's good for them to have a star. And this was when he came around when Tom Aspinall got hurt. That was when he was just kind of breaking onto the scene. So they really tried to market him. And then he had that kind of weird fight against Jared Gooden. A lot of people thought he lost it. And I don't know, man. Even Michael Bisping talks about like he holds his chin out here. Almost.
He's got so many holes.
Like all that it's going to take, like if he fought Justin Gaethje right now, Justin Gaethje puts him out in less than 2 minutes.
Oh,
I would drop my rent on that for next.
I would too. He holds his chin so high. I'm like, I don't know how he has not been like just dog water and out.
And granted, that could be a testament to just how good his chin is, I guess, to play devil's advocate there. But like, I don't know, man. The Jared Gooden fight, he looked good in his other 3 when he was fighting tomato cans. So like that doesn't really matter. But like, you don't win Cage Warriors for no reason, I will say. But another problem with Paddy is just how much he blows up in between fights, dude. Like that's just
he blew up to like 195, 200, and then had to cut back down to 145 for it.
That's crazy. That's one thing that we'll see Dylan do a lot. Like not blow up, the opposite of that. That's what I mean. But Dylan stays in great shape in between fights.
He does.
Like,
he does.
It's extremely important, and you'll hear him talk about this all the time too. If you guys ever get the chance to talk to him, if you stay ready, you don't have to get ready, right? Dylan does a great job with that. Another guy who did a great job with that to kind of pull on the heartstrings of some of you older fans was Paul Felder. Paul Felder did an excellent job with that. He hired a nutritionist. He did it correctly, and he could make weight whenever. Dylan can make weight whenever. Cowboy Cerrone, he can make weight whenever. So it's important to be able to do that. And I don't think that Paddy Pimblett will ever get to that level of discipline that you'll see from guys on their way to the top.
Nope. I agree. Yeah. Let's get into what Kev loves most.
Oh, you know what time it is, ladies and gentlemen. My name is not Paul Heyman. It's Kev Nevick, and this is the Wrestling Minute, brought to you proudly by not only Carnage Media, but Bite Size Sports. And that is true. Yeah, he's already been tweeting and posting about it for the last week or so. Like, hey, I'm ready for December 9th, baby. Dylan
Come
Buck
on,
is
Dana.
ready.
Make it happen. Make it happen. He's in shape. He's ready. He's never out of shape. He's ready.
That is true. He is ready. And I am ready to talk to you guys about, once again, another nostalgia play. So see, it's great. The Wrestling Minute, you never really have to learn anything new because nothing is new under the sun in the world of wrestling. So Survivor Series, one of the big four, as it were. Well, that's one that, most fans recognize, that one of those pay-per-view names. It's not like, Vengeance or Money in the Bank or something crazy. Survivor Series has been a staple in the industry. So naturally, the WWE, now that they're part of TKO, they got a little more money behind. They got these investors. They've been hot shotting it, as us carnies would say. Not only did we didn't have one return, not two returns. They had three returns to the WWE. Now, the first one is infamous joke character R-Truth. Clayton, you probably won't know this name. Wade, do you know who R-Truth is? The guy who won the 24/7 title like 300 something times.
I do not know.
Yeah, nope. That just goes to show you that belt was worthless. Yeah. So that one was just for the real, like, that's what we call a deep cut. That's like R-Truth is like the 11th song on an album by your favorite artist, right? Like, only you know about that. Like, casual fans, they've never even heard of it. But then in the main event, RKO, the Rattlesnake, Randy Orton showed up to help get a victory for the good guys, believe it or not. Do you remember Randy Orton, Wade?
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah, the Viper. The Viper. See, Alex knows what's up. I love it. 24/7, 365, 7-Eleven, 1-2-3 champion. Yes. I love it. Yes. No, R-Truth, and they've brought him back to be sort of a comic relief comedy figure. But he's a fantastic athlete, though. That's the sad part about the WWE. Sometimes you get cast as one of the children's characters and you're just going to do goofy, comic-y shit, and you could be one of the best athletes in the world. Doesn't matter, because Vince saw, well, not Vince anymore. Now it's Triple H. But back then it would be as easy as, well, goddamn, pal. I hate the dentist, so we're gonna make you an evil dentist, Dr. Isaac Yankem. God damn, this is good shit. So he had the Viper, Randy Orton, come back, but the biggest news in Chicago, of all places, somehow the best kept secret in wrestling, CM Punk did return to the WWE. He quoted Bret Hart when he did his first promo, saying, "Hell has frozen over." It was been pretty well documented how much CM Punk did not enjoy his time at the end of his WWE run, because The Rock would take a break from Hollywood and just get his top spot immediately, and he'd be really pissed. So The Rock, he's out here being a millionaire, doing all these movies, and then when he wants to come back, he just gets the top spot at WrestleMania, which, for those of you who don't know, those have higher payouts for the wrestlers. So he's coming in at the last minute, and it'd basically be like every year. Imagine if you work at an office and every year at peak season, not only does the company bring in temps, but they bring those temps in to make more money than you. So it would piss anybody off most likely. But anyway, the guy somehow has come back. Wade, do you have any memories? Was CM Punk at all part of your wrestling watching history?
A little bit, but I didn't like him. So
You're not alone.
so I didn't really pay attention to him.
Oh, you are not alone. And that's why it's such big news, and that's why he's the biggest draw. So just to put it into perspective, I think already the clip of him returning is the most viewed clip on the WWE's YouTube channel. He's the top selling merch mover in the WWE, and at one point, I believe he was still the top in AEW because he was only fired a couple months ago from his last job. So he's a top merch mover in the two biggest companies in this business in the world. And it's because you either love him or you hate him, and that's his brand, and someone's always freaking talking about him. And that's the thing. Just as an objective fan of the sport, more guys like this are actually working, then people are talking about it, more eyes are on it. Awesome. So I'm content with it. I'm gonna be kind of mad. Time is a flat circle, and as Harvey Dent once said in my second favorite Christopher Nolan film, you either die a hero or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain. And I find it funny that Charles Montgomery Punk, the same man who got very upset at other big name wrestlers coming back right before WrestleMania to steal his payday, might be doing that exact same thing to Cody Rhodes and the other guys who've been working there all year. So, that's probably what's going to happen. But there it is. There's our wrestling minute. Forgive me. I will step down from the soapbox.
Before you step down, though, I got one more thing because I saw this rumor on a podcast and I want to talk about it real quick.
Ooh.
So Dana White has been talking about this potential super fight in the mix. Who that super fight is we don't know. All of the champions except for Alex Pereira are currently booked. So one of the big rumors is that supposedly the UFC floated Ronda Rousey 15 mil to come back and fight Miesha Tate for the 135 title at UFC 300.
Wow.
I saw that. Dana said that on the Nelk Boys podcast, and people have been going crazy about that. Who's it going to be? Who's it going to be? I think it'll more than likely end up being they'll bring in somebody to fight Alex Pereira, but
that would
be so wild to think about.
That is wild, but that would be the only fight I think Ronda Rousey would have a chance with. I mean, she's always had her number.
Yeah, she's 2-0 against her already.
Yeah, so
that would be interesting. Now, I wonder because I thought that, and I don't remember specifically seeing the clip, so maybe it was just an out of context tweet, but I thought someone had asked Dana about Ronda specifically when it came to UFC 300, and I thought he previously had said that wasn't on the table. But for the last 2 months, everybody else at that same company has been saying, "Oh yeah, we're not talking to CM Punk about bringing him back."
Yep.
So
they also said for 200, it's not going to be Brock Lesnar. It won't be. It's not going to be. That's how Ariel Helwani lost his job. So,
oh yeah.
Speaking of which, I got to talk about this for a second because I don't know if I said it or not, but him and so there's a guy. His name, I can never pronounce his name correctly. Who the guy for Dominance MMA Management? What is his name? Big Dominance MMA Management. They represent Frankie Edgar, Ali Abdelaziz. That's who it is. Yeah, him and Ariel were going back and forth on Twitter a couple weeks ago, and he said, or Abdelaziz said, "Imagine getting not being able to get credentials to a UFC event." And Ariel tweeted back at him, "Imagine being able to get on a plane and leave the country." 10-8 round.
Oh, wow.
Ariel got him.
Ariel, God. You don't expect that. Oh,
I was
wow.
scrolling through Twitter and I was like, damn, Ariel got him, dude.
Oh,
There's
wow.
that guy's got a family to think about, bro.
Yeah, I know. What the heck?
Dang. Man, okay. Noted. All right. You don't want to
But
get in a verbal sparring match with Ariel. Goddamn.
Right?
had to bring up the potential crossover between the WWE and the UFC once again. I'm interested to see if it'll happen. I don't think it will, but it's possible. Anything's possible.
It is very possible because Ronda did recently wrestle for the enemy, so to speak. She had a wrestling match for Ring of Honor, which is now owned by AEW, but she is not under contract. Tony Khan made that explicitly clear, which is odd. Kind of surprised he isn't paying her a lot of money to
Right.
go over there and help their women's division, but maybe it's one of those weird things that kind of makes sense if she is training for a UFC fight. Maybe she wouldn't, because she's been hitting the indies in wrestling. Like she's just been randomly doing these one-off spots, which it's not like she couldn't get a contract.
Right.
I'm sure if the dollar's right, I'm sure the WWE would even take her back. So she could wrestle, on a contract if she wanted to. So maybe she is keeping herself open. Because I would say this, fellas, in my opinion, UFC 300 is the only time you can see Ronda Rousey. Like, if she comes, she would have to have a very impressive victory, I think, to ever get a second fight after this. I think this is almost like you call it a super fight. It's almost, in a sense, it's kind of just like a celebrity fight at this point, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like it's, there's diminishing. The longer she goes, the less attractive having her as a big name on any card. So this might be the last good opportunity to have her on a UFC card and have it draw lots of money. So I wouldn't be surprised to see it happen. Well, I wouldn't be too surprised. I don't think it'd be a great idea for Ronda outside of, take the money for sure, but some things are best left alone.
Yeah, I think that's the only fight I think that she should consider for if it's a payday to come back for a UFC fight. Because
you don't think she should try to take on like a world-class kickboxer or something?
I do.
You get a Holly Holm highlight again.
Yeah.
Oh, shoot.
But I think that about wraps it up for us, gentlemen. Another good episode. Thank you guys all for joining us here on your favorite podcast, Carnage Unleashed. A long card with Ruthless made, but action-packed nonetheless. Wade, you want to kick us off with where the people can find you?
Yes, Carnage Media PPV on all social media. So just check us out. Like I said earlier, for Cody, if you guys want to check out the Ruthless Made Promotions Round 5, that will be available for the playback, and we will be posting it to our social media. So just give us a like and follow, and keep a lookout. Pass it over to you, Kev.
Yeah, thank you, sir. You can find me on Twitter at KevNevic _. Also, if you would, follow Bite Size Sports on all socials. On most places, it's Bite _size sports, but on Instagram, we actually got we didn't need the hyphen, so we got our own name in one of 4 really important places, but we're working our way up the ladder. Subscribe if you want to be notified. We run about 5 live shows a week: NBA, NFL, betting, daily fantasy, NASCAR. We're still working on baseball, but we got damn near everything else. So go check us out, Bite Size Sports. Also, you can find me Tuesdays and Sundays on the Clout Route, talking about all the most amazing and controversial stories that the internet can provide. Clayton, where can the folks find you outside of Monday nights?
You guys can find me on my social medias. It's like looking in a mirror. There we go. My social media is at cscalina12. Make sure to follow me on Twitter. And follow my podcast, the Hot Take Sports Podcast, on all your social medias at Hot Take Sports 16. We've been putting out content on Wednesdays, so make sure to look out for that. Also, big shout out to the Lionheart, Anthony Smith, making his return to the Octagon this weekend. Big Lionheart fan. I'm always excited to see him get in there. So I will be watching December 9th, second to last UFC card this weekend, gentlemen. Sad to see it go for the year.
Yeah, yep. Oh, speaking of December 9th, Carnage Media is going to be doing a fundraiser / giveaway and auction for this Saturday for like a little Christmas event and get to know us, sit down with everybody with Carnage Media and get to know us personally a little bit. We also have some special guests, Amin, coming in, and you get to work out with him if you want. He's going to do a little dance class. And then we have our big special guest, Dylan, the Mindless Hawk Bucka. You get a chance to work out with him as well. And he's going to be signing some gear, and we're going to auction that off. And throughout the stream, we will be giving out some free merch from yours truly right there, Kev Nevitt, Bite Size Sports. Hot takes, maybe.
Hefty flex.
Yep, and some Carnage Media gear. And we just want to thank you for everybody that's supporting us and as we grow and have been there. So thank you all.
Yeah, we appreciate you all. And now is the time when I hit the old end stream button. So we will see you all next time on Carnage Unleashed.